Hi, Craig Cowing at Resurrection Fabrics here. This is my first video. I wanted to talk a little bit about the kinds of fabrics that I use in making clergy stoles. Everything that I use is used material or discarded, with the exception of thread and interfacing if I need interfacing for thinner material, and also any gold appliques like crosses or something of that sort. So I get most of my material at thrift stores. Occasionally material can come from some other sources, but by and large thrift stores. I usually look for curtains and tablecloths primarily because they're the largest pieces of fabric you're usually going to see. Sheets and things of that sort are generally a thinner fabric. Bedspreads sometimes can work, but generally tablecloths and curtains are my mainstay. So just to give you an idea, this is a cotton poly curtain. As you can see, it's got a beautiful rainbow pattern on it, stripes. Piece of cloth like this, I could probably get one side for, probably 4 stoles. This should be 8 pieces, so this is pretty good. Valances can also work nicely. This is a polyester valance. Has a nice small floral pattern. This is probably 1 stole, and maybe a small section for a sort of patchwork, quilted kind of a thing, which I haven't done yet, but at some point I will. And it's got fringe on the bottom, which I can take off and I can use on the bottom of a stole, so there's a plus there. Cotton poly curtains can be a great source, again, because they're rectangular, they're a large expanse of fabric. You generally aren't going to see 2 pieces of cloth put together to make a drape, because they'd want to have a continuous look with the folding of the fabric. So this is a cotton poly. It's a nice red. Red is good for Pentecost, for special occasions like ordinations, perhaps anniversaries of churches. And this is just a plain cloth, but it has a nice feel, a nice texture to it, and it's a nice bright color, so it should go very nicely with a green. In fact, that green that I just showed you would be a good match for it. I generally try to stick with the traditional pairings of colors. Red and green, for instance, is one traditional pairing. The other is white and purple. The red and green, of course, is for red for Pentecost, green for the season after Pentecost, or ordinary time as it's sometimes called. White, of course, for Easter and Christmas seasons, purple for Advent and for Lent. Although, in the last couple decades, I guess, blue has become quite popular because it's its own color and it's not used for any other season. Blue has become very popular for Advent, so I have also made blue stoles. A nice example of material for that is this cotton poly tablecloth. It has a linen weave, although it's not actually linen, and it's a beautiful fabric, a nice bright blue. One drawback for this is the scalloped edge, which itself isn't a problem, but it's oval shaped, which means I'll have more waste. But I sometimes can find uses for small pieces like that aren't large enough to make a stool. Table runners can be really good for one-offs. This is probably maybe 2 stoles, depends on the width, possibly just 1. Sort of a nice deep rich color with a rainbow sort of ish look to it. And of course purple. Purple still used by many churches for Lent, for Lent and Advent, although again blue is becoming more common for Advent. This is a cotton poly tablecloth with a brocade. The thing I like about brocade is that depending on which way you have the shiny part facing out, You can get the shimmer. That's very nice. Purple tablecloths and curtains are not that easy to find, so when I see one, I snap it right up because they don't come around often. Upholstery fabric can be useful if it's left over from somebody's project, and occasionally you will see leftover pieces of fabric, and I consider them reused because the original person who purchased the fabric has discarded it for whatever reason. May have sat in a loved one's closet for years and never got used, or it could be that they bought 2 or 3 yards too many for a particular project and didn't have a use for the rest of it, so they gave it away. But this is actually from an upholstered piece of furniture. We had a very large sofa in our back room that we decided was too big. It was taking up too much space. We spent the better part of probably half a day trying to figure out how they got the thing into the house. Could not figure it out, so we decided we were going to take the sofa apart. And so I spent the entire next day taking the sofa apart. And the fabric, as it turned out, was really good. The wood went into some other projects. But the fabric is really nice here. It's got this gold on top of sort of a tannish flat background, and the gold will look really good in a candlelight situation. And that's not for a particular season, that's just for whenever. Usually in ordinary time, the season after Pentecost is when multicolored stoles like that are good. And then of course, there's pashmina. I love pashmina. I don't wear it, but I love to work with it. I love the way it feels. Generally, a pashmina shawl like this is going to bring out 2 stoles, maybe 3. It just depends. And this pashmina has some gold-colored thread in it, so this is beautiful. Looks really nice. For pashmina, I always use interfacing because it is a knit material, and it tends to shift, and you don't want that when you're trying to sew a straight line. So always interfacing for pashmina. But pashmina stoles are great. This is a tablecloth. Mostly poly, I think. I'm not sure there's any cotton in this. Has a little bit of the feel of pashmina. It isn't pashmina, and the nice thing about this is if you see how the fabric is made, it's a series of stripes of varying widths. And this is really good for stoles because all I have to do is just cut down to either side, leave ½ inch or so for sewing, and then I can come up with I don't know how many stoles I'll get out of this, but it's beautiful. And whoops, actually that's the back side. Yeah, no, that's the front side. I can get a number of stoles out of this. I don't know yet. And it's got beautiful rich colors, maroons, purples, gold. It's just beautiful to look at. This is another piece of discarded fabric. It is just beautiful. I think it's Chinese in origin, polyester, and has a navy blue sort of background, and then around the flowers a lighter blue, kind of a nice bright blue, and then gold. So this will be an absolute stunning stole for somebody for Advent. I think I only have enough. Yeah, I probably only have enough for 1 stole, maybe 2. So some lucky person's going to have this to wear on Advent. And then there's another curtain. This one's a thumper. I don't even know how many stoles I'm going to get out of this, but I will get a number of them out. This has a really interesting pattern. It's subtle, but it has sort of a checkerboard look to it. Each square is 3 over 3 or 9 squares. One has a flat finish and the other has a set of stripes going through, so, and then sort of a brownish background, and so you get this almost brownish red shimmer and the gold shimmer of the gold as you move it, and it's just beautiful. I paid a little bit more for this one at a thrift store than I normally would, but the fabric just grabbed me, and I thought, I have to have this. And this will yield a lot of stoles, so it was worth the money. Now, fabrics for me are not a new thing. I grew up in a family of 3 boys. My mother didn't have any daughters. I was supposed to, since I'm the second one, I was supposed to be a girl. My name was going to be Ellen, and they did not name me Ellen, which I'm thankful for. But it just oddly worked out that I tended to work with my mother on projects that the other 2 really weren't interested in, and that was fine. I tended to help out in the kitchen more, and she taught me how to use the sewing machine and how to understand fabrics and how to know how fabrics will respond to being sewed, very much in the same way as my father did in the workshop, teaching me how to make things out of wood. This is just raw material to me, and so I enjoy looking at fabrics. I love shopping for them, especially used ones. There's always the thrill in discovering something like this, which is beautiful and big and going to yield a lot of goodness from it. So in future videos, I'll have some footage on what's involved in making a stole. I didn't bring any neckties today because neckties are neckties, but I will also have some video on what's involved in making a necktie stole, which is a lot more work than making just 2 sides out of a piece of a tablecloth or a curtain or a drapery or whatever. So tablecloths, table runners, curtains, drapes, occasional shawls. Sometimes women's clothing can yield some beautiful patterns. A pair of pants. I've made some shawls, stoles out of silk pants. Just about anything silk is going to work really nicely. And cotton poly can often have a beautiful silk-like texture as well. Rayon is great. So that's it for today. I appreciate your watching this video, and watch for more.